So where? Oh, we're not going anywhere anymore, do we? We don't go anywhere anymore. We've changed the format of the
No,
show.
we're here in the bar.
We're
Yeah,
here in the bar.
Yeah, we're just here in the bar. We're just going to stay here for 4 years. We're going to stay here.
Hello and welcome to the Rose and Rockstar from the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast and the Marketing Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ian Truscott. I'm not a rock star, but I am a CMO. And in a moment, I will join my chub, author, marketing strategy expert, and chief troublemaker at Seventh Bear, Robert Rose, in our virtual bar, the Rose and Rockstar, where he recommends one of his fabulous cocktails, and I pick his brains on a marketing topic that is top of mind for me. This week, we discuss the perennial favourite for B2B marketers, to gate or not to gate. I share my experience, and Robert has some fresh ideas that we should all adopt. But first, we need to pay the bar tab. I'll be back in a moment.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. My dad works in B2B marketing, but I never really knew what that meant. Then one day, my dad came by my school for career day and told everyone in my class he was a big ROAS man. Then he just kept saying things like, the bigger the ROAS, the better, over and over. My friends still laugh at me to this day. I think it means calculating a return on ad spend. One thing's for sure, I'll be known as the ROAS man's kid for the rest of my days. Why couldn't you just be a fireman or a lawyer? Why? You ruined my life, Dad.
Not everyone gets B2B, but LinkedIn has the people who do. And with ads on LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people based on job title, industry, likelihood to buy, and more. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Average is not invited. Not if you're holding your company off-site in Las Vegas. We aren't on friendly terms with the bare minimum, and unenthusiastic is uninvited. Las Vegas's creative energy and world-class hospitality want to bring your company off-site to crazy new heights. That's why fear-based leadership is afraid of Vegas, and boring won't be there, but it will be watching the meeting recordings later. Plan for the extraordinary at vegasmeansbusiness.com.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to the bar.
Thank you very much, mate. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Other than the fact that we find ourselves in early 1930s Germany here in the U.S., we are doing well. Yes.
Straight there, man. Straight there.
But this isn't a political show. But yeah. It's time for drinking, my friend. It's time to drink.
I'd pace yourself, mate, because you got 4 years of this shit.
There's. I don't know. The show may be over before 4 years is up, right? I may be calling you up and saying, "Hey, can I stay in your flat?" So yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I did hear a rumor that you were trying to get Canadian citizenship.
Yeah. Well, yes. Is either that or I mean, look, if I could live anywhere, I would live in London. But
yeah,
and I think it's so funny. I actually thought about this. I believe because my mother was from Scotland.
Yeah.
And my uncle is still there, and I still have family there in Scotland. I believe I can. I don't know the law. Maybe you do. I think I can get dual citizenship. I think
I think you could definitely play for England. So that'd be that's good enough for me. Yeah, absolutely. I think you'd be fine. And isn't there? Hasn't there been a rise? And I don't want to stoke the 1930s Germany analogy, but hasn't there been a rise of Americans sort of looking into their heritage and seeing if they can grab a passport from somebody else?
Yes.
Maybe?
Oh yeah. There's quite a few in my, not even just looking into their heritage to see if they can leave, but just full stop. Can we leave? I mean, can we,
right.
Can we go? I mean, can't, Canada looks good. Mexico looks good. UK, Australia.
Yeah.
It's all looking much better now.
I think some enterprising sunny country should sort of, when they do those visa things where you can work in visas, but you can just come and be somewhere for a couple of years. They should open
Iceland's
up
isn't that Iceland like that? Where you can just go and you can just be, like, you don't have to.
Yeah. So somebody should have like the Trump visa, move to Belize for 4 months or 4 years or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, we weren't going to.
Anyway, we have a wonderful cocktail.
Yeah.
So because we're drinking,
let's go.
This is a famous cocktail. It's called a painkiller. So we're going to have that. It's a little bit of a tropical drink when you think about it, but it's not terribly tropical. It starts with pineapple juice, and then it's a dark rum. You find a dark rum that you like, whatever it is, 2 parts of that, just because it's painkiller. And then a little bit of either coconut juice or cream of coconut if you can find it, and then a little orange juice, and then it basically you mix all that up in a shaker, but then pour it over ice, and it becomes a beautiful drink. And because you've got enough rum in there to kill a horse, it becomes a painkiller.
I like that. We've drunk similar here because, as you know, my wife's of Jamaican descent, so we do like a dark rum. My sister lives on Bermuda, so we regularly have Gosling's dark rum in the house. What's your dark rum of choice? What's your dark rum of choice?
It's a lovely. I have Pussers is a good one. Yeah. Is a lovely dark rum. I'm blanking on some other names right now, but that's the one I'm familiar most with.
Oh, that sounds delicious. So, we're not going anywhere anymore, do we? We don't go anywhere anymore. We've changed the format of the show.
No, we're here in the bar.
We're here in the bar.
Yeah, we're just here in the bar. We're just going to stay here for 4 years. We're going to stay here in the bar. Yeah.
Well, I have. I've got a question for you, mate. As we've changed the format of the show, I want to ask you a question that is on a lot of B2B marketers' minds, and it's a topic that gets trotted out every now and again. And I heard you talking about it the other day, and that is gating content.
Oh,
where
yes.
do you sit?
The famous tension-filled issue. Yeah.
Maybe it would have been better to chat about where we might drink cocktails, but there's the current idea, and I think we both subscribe to this idea that people will consume your ungated content and then come back and engage with you. But obviously, it's hard to measure, and that's we're all kind of metric orientated these days. So what do you suggest about this? How do you work with gated content?
Well, I think it's changing, interestingly enough, with AI, which we can get to in a minute. But I think the overall challenge, the sort of classic challenge of gating content was always the tension between marketing and sales in the B2B organization, which is when do what assets basically do you use as lead magnets, and when do you call them leads, and providing that transactional type of relationship where you have to basically you can't get to everything, and the range here is really unique to individual B2B companies, but it could range from anything from a one sheet, quite honestly, all the way through to a customer case study and everything in between, white paper, ebook. Basically, whatever you're using as an asset that people want access to, you're basically providing some sort of information gateway that you have to provide, one, maybe just your email address, up to, I've seen some ridiculous ones where there's like 17 pieces of information that you have to, including, by the way, what buying stage you're in, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, right. Like, I really want to tell you that. And so,
comes with the contract.
The tension, of course, is that between marketing who says make all the content free so that search can find it, et cetera, and make people register for things that ultimately indicate that they're in a buying mood.
Yeah.
Versus sales, who is looking for the, typically the conversion so that they can start talking to it. They want those leads, right? They want to be able to talk to somebody directly. And that gets to the tension of what is a lead, right? And so the problem is that it's, for most organizations, they tend to look at it as a binary, this is again, classically binary sort of gambit, which is either we're gating all assets or we're ungating all assets. And of course, it can be and should be a much more nuanced conversation, right? Which is, well, we can time horizon it, some assets, like they're, like when it's fresh off the presses, we'll gate it for a bit and then we'll ungate it. There is the abstract versus complete, we'll put in, the abstract or the executive summary for free, and then we'll make the entire research study available behind a gate. There is the combination of, as you scroll down on a page, or if it's not a PDF file, but you're scrolling down on a page, it's like after a certain number of words, it starts to gate. There are all kinds of nuanced ways to do this that most B2B companies just don't do. And we can talk about that, but I'll add the layer now, which is literally in the last 12 to 15 months, which is as the need for us to have a bigger footprint because of zero-click search and social media has meant that we need to put more and more value out beyond just our websites. So our thinking, our thought leadership, et cetera, putting it into social, putting it into the ability to have AI search it, et cetera. There is an argument, and I buy it, and I think it's another nuanced argument that says maybe we should protect our most valuable and exclusive ideas behind a gate, if only to protect it from the knowledge, that AI is going to provide in a zero-click search. So that's a different sort of challenge that we face as B2B marketers, and there's lots and lots of discussion to have there.
Oh my God. Yeah, there's me thinking we would have the simple gated conversation that's been going on for ages, but at that AI point is really good, because it's hard to know at this point, isn't it, whether we should be educating LLMs with our content, therefore our point of view will get expressed, or whether we should be protecting our best content from AI so that it doesn't just serve it up for free.
Or just looking at the spectrum of that, right? The answer, of course, is yes, of course we should be educating AI with a bigger footprint of our content on all these that's the new SEO, right? The new SEO is not trying to rank in organic search. That game is pretty much over. But now what we want to do is rank and be everywhere we could possibly be with our ideas where content is being consumed. The ranking is a side benefit of that, but more importantly, it's the value, and your thinking is evident in all those platforms if you can just create that bigger footprint. So that means a bigger LinkedIn profile. It means a bigger social media profile. It means a bigger, wider open of your guest posting, of putting it out on partner sites, of putting, it means everything, all that, right? So the headline answer to should we be educating AI to our stuff, the answer is yes. The question is, where do you stop, right? Where do you stop and make some of your ideas so exclusive that they can only be gotten directly through you with some level of permission-based marketing?
Yeah. So it's like some of the big ideas, like I don't know, no software from Salesforce, or at the moment, Sixth Sense, they're having a war on the MQLs. You express the idea for free, but if anybody wants to learn anything more about it, that's when they need to register, right? So you're educating the market and these LLMs that there's this idea that's yours, but once you get through to that idea, then you're gated. Is that sort of,
it's a great point. And I think one of the ways that I'm seeing that best express itself is in, this is a lesson that Joe and I learned when we launched CMI University way back in the day. When we launched our online class, which was of course paid, it was a paid component to it. So inherently behind a gate. What we noticed was if we just put it up and said anytime, right? Go in, it's on demand, buy your ticket, and away you go, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't get, our conversion rate was very small, low. And the reason, which we only discovered later by doing the opposite, which I'm about to tell you, was because there was no sense of scarcity or urgency.
Yeah.
And so because you could have it any time, there was never any urgency or scarcity in order to get it before it goes away. Yeah. So what we did was we changed the way that we marketed it into an event. Yeah. So what we did was we said, look, registration is only open for these 3 weeks in March, let's say. Yeah. And so if you're seeing this in December, January, or February, basically you can quote unquote get on the waiting list.
Yeah.
And basically look, and we'll notify you when it's available. And then you got to do it because otherwise you're not going to get it. And creating that sense of scarcity and FOMO. And so event-based marketing, basically time horizoning things so that they become more event-like is a way to think about gating that provides you exactly what you're talking about, which is there's a reason that we want your information, right? There's a reason that you have to give your information because this thing you are registering for this specific thing that will only exist for a short amount of time.
Yeah, I like that. And that's like, one of those psychological nudges, isn't it? Of scarcity, as you say. And also,
indeed, well, or you really pay it off, right? I mean, so for example, we're going to change our webinar programs. Like I'm changing my webinar program where we're going to not do live webinars anymore. But what we're going to do is have webinars that are, but we will only release them in a very specific time horizon, right? So if you don't, so if you register, you'll be able to see it for X amount of time, and then it'll go away for a while, and then it may come back in social media and the bigger footprint, right? So it's sort of like that idea is you create the scarcity and the FOMO around the exclusivity of the access to the content where it's needed most and when it's needed most. And then you go, great, now it's, now it leaves, it's the movie thing, right? So it's now left the movie theater and you can't see it until it actually comes on cable, right? So that's when you use that content and that model that way.
I think that'd be really interesting to see how that works out, because I also suspect that a lot of poor webinar attendance is because people believe that they'll just come back and watch the replay, and they don't.
Can see it. You can see it because people, I mean, everybody goes, oh, what's a good webinar attendance rate these days? Oh, it's between 30% and 35% or 26% or whatever it is. And you go, great. Well, why is that? And the reason is because 73% or 82% or whatever the people who didn't show up only signed up so that they can get the email and they can watch it in their own time. Right? So for them, it was more important that they be reminded of the content than actually attend the event live. But if you don't make that available, like if you said, no, we're not making this available for a while, like if you literally cut that out, would you get a higher rate of attention? Like, you're not going to get an archive in the next 24 hours if you sign up. You can only see this if you show up.
Yeah. But if the objective here is not to show a webinar, it's just to harvest contacts, right? Then do you really mind whether they show up on the day or whether they show up and
well, that's exactly the point, right? It's a great point. The goal, if the goal is right, if the goal is to harvest content, then, or excuse me, harvest contacts, to your point, then it's gate everything, right? You just gate everything, right? Because then, of course, but then don't complain when you get mickeymouse@gmail.com as your sort of most common thing, right? It's do you want people who are genuinely interested to sign up for stuff, so that that they're and if you're clever with your content strategy, of course, then it's what they're genuinely interested in. They're interested in solving a problem or that, and that starts to give you better insight into where they may be in their customer journey.
Well, I've had the experience when I was CMO at Senshare, and we paid for a big Forrester report, and because we paid, and I'm broadly against gating. I tend not to gate a lot of stuff, but because we paid a lot of money for it, it had to be gated, right? Just that's the law, right? And
Right.
but I thought we might as well have given this away for free because people were more interested in the content and getting the content of a Forrester report than they were in the company that we were, right? So you get a lot of contacts coming in, exactly as you say, Mickey Mouse, but even if they gave their real names, they're not interested in you. They're interested in the content at that point in their lives. So why not just give it to them for free? You know what I mean? Like,
well, exactly. This is, it's the both Forrester and Gartner made brilliant business models out of this, right? You're marketing them as an exclusive thing, right? It's like, what a silly, what a silly concept when you think about it in any level of depth, which is because it's expensive, we're going to make it gated, right? In other words, we're going to make sure that you think Forrester is inaccessible and exclusive and amazing and valuable. So valuable that you have to give up your personal information and that we paid a lot of money for this thing. And so it's amazing content. And then expect the consumer to come to that and go, ooh, the brand is valuable because they're making Forrester stuff. No, they want the Forrester stuff, right? They want the Gartner stuff. And Forrester and Gartner are brilliant at this by just basically saying, yeah, sure, go ahead and make it gated and, basically make us seem like we're, we're brilliant people sitting up in an ivory tower talking about stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine the conversation where I suggested that we didn't gate something like that. It's like, that is preposterous. You have to gate it. That's like, ridiculous.
Wait a minute, we paid, tens of thousands of dollars to put this thing up together. Of course we have to gate it. It's like,
but it's sunk cost.
Maybe what if we just distributed it for free and got and got tons and tons of people to look at it and associate us with the company that brings you all this great information for free.
And one of the things I just wanted to loop back on something you were saying earlier on about the thing that B2B we're not very good at in B2B, and that is these sort of more creative ways of gating. And as you were saying about, normally something is either gated or not gated. And then you were saying about, if you scroll 3/4 of the way through the thing, then a gate pops up. And that sounds to me like Patreon, Substack, Memberful, those kinds of experiences. Two things about that. One is, do you think that is teaching people the value of content, which has been for free forever, and now so much content is now behind a subscription wall? And the other thing is that something we should consider as a model then, do you think, for B2B marketers, that we should start to think like those people rather than gate or no gate?
When you say those people, what's the alternative?
Well, like Patreon, Substack, and those kinds of experiences.
I see what you're saying.
Do you see what I mean? Or even like the New York Times, I think, does it. There are various publications where you can read the first 3 paragraphs and you go beyond that. And that's the experience you were talking about. And it sounded like you were recommending that we do that as B2B marketers.
Well, I think it's a commitment to a model. Yeah. So the answer, the headline answer, the bumper sticker answer is yes. Please go do that. Yes, but it means the implications of taking that route mean that you have to put it into a full on, whether you call it a thought leadership program or an education program or whatever.
Yeah,
you've got to make it a thing, right? Because at that point, what you're doing is you're building a little content business on the side, right? A business within a business. And so whether whether the monetization of that is in subscribers and audiences or even in some cases revenue, right? I mean, I think about the way Pendo, the product marketing, product management, software as a service company, they're not a big company. They're considered a startup, I'm sure. But they acquired Mind the Product, the community of tens of thousands of product managers and product marketers, and they still draw revenue, right? So it's a whole thing for them, right? It's a whole, it's their content marketing platform, it's their thought leadership platform, but they sort of made it such a thing where people, of course, pay money for the classes, the training that they get. They pay money for the events that they attend, and they pay with their information in terms of joining the community and networking with the community. And so they've created this valuable thing where it's worth subscribing and even paying revenue into, which makes it a marketing program that pays for itself ultimately. And so, but but the business doesn't have to run it at a profit, right? The business just has to mitigate their marketing cost with it because it provides so many other benefits, including leads and opportunities and customer loyalty and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, we're going to be running out of time in a minute, but that was something I was going to ask you. I'd put into my notes about private communities that actually the gate doesn't need to be on a specific piece of content. Actually, the gate is to be part of a community, as you say.
Indeed.
And open that up. Yeah. And also, I think, where do you sit on this sneaky gating that I'm seeing that people are doing on LinkedIn, where they post something and they say, reply download if you're interested in this asset, which is really gating, right? Do we need to be more creative the way we gate, or is that just shit?
Well, I think that's look, this is one of those things. So I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's a sneaky way of gating, right? So the way I always look at it is, would I be willing to sit on a park bench next to my customer and tell them what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And so if the answer to that is no, because you're trying to sort of hide something, people will see through it, right? At some point. And it may work for a while and it may work forever. But in a way, it's sort of like, it's not sort of on the up and up, right? And so, I for example, I have, if you look at pop-up, right? When you go to a website and there's a pop-up to sign in or sign up or whatever, and I hate those things. I have resisted them forever. I have been told by any number of agencies and people in the business that they work, and they do work. That's the thing. The data proves that they work. I will not do it because I find them annoying and I find them like sort of a sneaky way of gating stuff.
Yeah, I think you're very strong on that. I can't say that I've been completely not pop-ups in my career, but I did work with fairly recently with an organization and one of their websites was just fucking pop-up-tastic, and the marketing director there just swore by it, and I thought, this is just horrible. Are you trying to create the Forbes website? Because this is shit, right? As a B2B experience, it was terrible. But anyway, yes.
But they do work. But that's the thing.
Absolutely.
You can't argue with the fact that they go, well, they work. It's like, yes, they do. I don't doubt that they work, and I've seen the data, right? I've seen the data on the pop-ups that work, and I go, I'm not doing it.
I think, well, yes, I think there's a definition of work there, because I used to talk about, like you when you have these ridiculous conversion rates of like 0.5%, you got to think about the 99.5% of the other people you mildly pissed off, right? So how many people are clicking on that pop-up going, just fuck off? And compared to the 1% who fill in their email address, right? So I don't know. I'd probably rather have nobody say fuck off.
No, it's a great point.
All right, mate. Well, if people want to go to a website that's 0 pop-ups and nobody telling them to fuck off, where would they find that?
They'll find it at our little website, which is seventhbear.com.
Fantastic. And when people are looking for you and they spin the dial on the interwebs, where are they going to find you?
If they want to engage in snarky, fun stuff about the media and politics and all that, you can find me on Blue Sky. Otherwise, if you just want to stick to business, it's on LinkedIn for sure.
All right. And physically, will you be in the bar next week?
Of course. We have to serve up the drinks.
Cool. And we'll move the bar to Canada, and then everybody's going to be happy.
I like it.
I'll see you then, mate. See you next week. So that's a wrap on our visit to the Rose and Rockstar. Thank you for listening, and thanks to Robert for his insight. I have many questions to tackle in this bar, but if you have something top of mind or a thought about what we just discussed, please get in touch. To do that, or if you'd like to know more about me or Robert, the work we do, or any of the resources we refer to on the show, you can find all the links in the show notes at rockstarcmo.com, or connect with us at Rockstar CMO on LinkedIn. Please mention you're a listener. Coming up this week on Rockstar CMO FM Marketing Studio, my chum and experienced B2B CMO and now startup founder Thomas Peaham returns to the show on Wednesday. I hope you join us for that. In the meantime, remember, as Dewey Finn said in the School of Rock, you can't just say it, man. You got to feel it in your blood and guts if you want to rock.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.